Hi, I'm Brad Lips, CEO of Atlas Network, an organization that works globally to advance the free society principles that offer the world real hope for a more peaceful and prosperous future. We have more than 500 partners around the globe in more than 100 countries. Each organization sets its own priorities and operates independently, but engages with our team because we link them to a network of peers. We've learned over time that being connected to others whom you can learn from, that's one of the most important ingredients for success in almost any endeavor. So we offer professional development services, grant opportunities for our partner organizations, and events that bring us all together. You can learn more about us at atlasnetwork.org, and you might especially like to discover our Center for Latin America, which has a weekly newsletter you can subscribe to called Mirada Sur, which catches you up on current events in the region. You'll find it interesting to get immersed in a community of people that are aligned on a vision of how societies can thrive by respecting the dignity of the individual. And they're all working in practical ways to remove obstacles to free enterprise and to win more hearts and minds to the cause of limited government and respecting the dignity of each person. I wrote a book last year to put a spotlight on our partners in the freedom movement. As I see it, they are undervalued assets for revitalizing liberal democracy. And revitalizing liberal democracy is the big project of our era. We all know that we've lived through a global health crisis, but we remain in a global freedom crisis. Over the past 2 years, we've seen governments seize emergency powers like no time in recent memory. Individual rights have been abused. Government spending has skyrocketed, causing inflation in its wake and worsening an already bad macroeconomic situation. Real people are being thrown into poverty as a consequence. And of course, authoritarians feel empowered. They think liberal democracies are weak and that this is the age for strong men to take action on behalf of the collective will, just like back in the 1930s. All of these are threats to free society principles, and we need to push back. Our own governments might play a role, but let's not wait for them. There's much that civil society can do. Now, I'm just back from Warsaw, Poland, where I was able to meet with Atlas Network allies from Ukraine. There's been an incredible, privately funded, privately organized effort to get life-saving supplies to the people of Ukraine as they defend themselves against Putin's aggression. They're confident that Ukraine will prevail as an independent country. They told me, Putin's mistake was thinking that he could send slaves to conquer free men. What's more, there's a new determination among Ukrainians and Europeans in general that after the war, they need to build back freer institutions than before. Putin's war has reminded them of what they don't want to be. So this moment in world history should give us all some clarity that resilience in society comes from free institutions, from being willing to engage in civil debate and allowing individuals the chance to innovate in their own ways. While it's easy to be discouraged by the many challenges we face here in the 2020s, history calls on us to think big and stay focused on the opportunities in front of us. Keep in mind, our freedom movement has never been stronger, and it's contributed to historic achievements in the past. In chapter 2 of my book from last year, I mentioned some of the amazing improvements in human freedom that have happened over the past 40 years that Atlas Network has been in existence, and how our partners played key roles in things like the end of apartheid, which our South African partners were on the right side of from the beginning. The broken windows theory of policing, which revitalized American cities in the 1990s. And then there's the change taking place in development economics, where there's a new appreciation for property rights for the poor and the need for entrepreneurial capitalism to create an inclusive and lasting prosperity. I also mention within this same chapter the win in Latin America over the hyperinflation that had plagued the continent in the 1980s and into the 90s. I highlight here the important role that the Instituto Ecuatoriano de Economía Política played in dollarization, a reform that kept Ecuador from descending into a Venezuela. These are big accomplishments. And the rest of my book talks about the next big accomplishments that we should be aiming for and what it will take to establish a consensus in public opinion, around the values of an open society and market economy. I acknowledge each country is a little bit different, but I suggest in this book that there are some common ideas we can all champion. One of them is equality of opportunity. People on the political left like to call attention to inequality of outcomes. To them, it's morally imperative to address these inequalities with top-down programs run by government. This is a mistake because free societies will inevitably have different outcomes, and government-run attempts to fix things often makes them worse. Still, let's not be inattentive to the inequalities that actually matter. Let's understand how it's government policy that often gets in the way and makes life difficult in low-income communities. So people have trouble accessing a good education, getting a job, resolving disputes in the courts. This should be our work, to make sure that all people can enjoy the blessings of liberty and take responsibility for their own lives. So let's dig into it and help more people understand that liberal democracy is worth fighting for. There's been a lot of misunderstanding here. Neoliberalism is understood as cronyism. We need to show that authentic liberalism is opposed to cronyism, opposed to big businesses conspiring to trade favors with politicians. My book will be published in Spanish in June 2022 as El Liberalismo y la Sociedad Libre en el Siglo XXI. I hope you'll find it useful. As a survey of the challenges facing freedom coming out of the COVID pandemic, and as a resource about what civil society partners of Atlas Network are already doing to address those challenges, and then as a conversation starter about what more we need to do to enjoy a future of freedom. I'm glad to know that you're engaged with IEEP in Ecuador in order to think big about what you can do as a rising leader on behalf of open society values, which really are the great hope of all mankind. So congratulations on your current work, and I hope your future work will have you collaborating with me and my colleagues around the world who are connected to Atlas Network. Thank you.